We can go ahead. All right. We are recording. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I know some of us were able to do the activity this week, and Deborah has some data to share, and I have some data also from Kristen. She is not able to be here today, but she actually has her data. So I think between the two of those. But first of all, just Emily, you had a chance to do it also. Cool. Agina, did you have a chance to do any of the activities? If you didn't, that's okay. Just trying to figure out who did. And
yeah, I only did the one that I gave you feedback about.
Oh yes, that's right.
The other ones I did.
You said they went through it really quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, which I think, like I said, I don't know that that's a bad thing, because this, once you see how to make these, like, you can do them in 5 minutes, like at the end of class or something. But I do have an agenda, so I'm going to follow along with that. So I know some of you were able to complete the reflection form. That's okay if you weren't. We will go through those questions now. And so the first thing that we were looking at was the math practices. What math practices that you saw? Deborah, I'll let you share yours first. Oh, you're on mute. Let me unmute you.
I said I don't remember which ones I put. I know it dealt with vocabulary, math vocabulary.
Yes, you did MP6, 6C.
Yep.
Appropriate and precise mathematical language.
Yes.
Students were doing. Go ahead.
We were doing the Desmos, where they had to pick a number, and they had to use terms like, is the number rational or irrational? Is it a terminating decimal or repeating decimal? So that they could get used to using those vocabulary, because they had already covered that information. So it's kind of like a review thing.
Right. I could see the benefit of both ways of doing it, but definitely as a review, really honing in what this word, word means. Emily, you also said MP 1 and 6. They recall different types of slopes and look for appropriate terms. Anything you want to elaborate on there?
Yeah, because my students, when they answer for the polygraph activity this afternoon for my foundations in Algebra 1 classes, we tried the polygraph activity, and then they can identify. It helped a lot for most of my students, because they can identify or recall which one is the positive slope, which one is the negative, the zero, and the undefined slope.
Nice.
And then my struggle is, for some of my kids, my daughter is here.
So cute.
For some of my kids, they are not serious asking questions to their partner. So that's why for my third block, I just ended activity for a couple of 30 minutes. But for my first and second block classes, it went well.
Good. Mm-hmm. And I think it will get better. And like I said, the nice thing about this is, like, even going back, like Deborah was saying, and reviewing, because like you said, the positive slope, the negative slope, the zero, they don't even realize that they're reviewing it when they're doing this. And you can always they can play the game 100 times, and because they can pick a different one every time. So with the third block, does anybody have any thoughts that you'd like to share with Emily on, when you have a class that's not taking it seriously? We're all thinking.
I have a few like that spread out between some of my classes. I stressed to them that this was going to be a graded assignment, that I will be looking at their comments and making sure, that they were appropriate. And then, I did a lot of monitoring, walking around. So I didn't get a chance to really review any comments until afterwards, because I wanted to make sure everybody knew what kind of question to ask, and if they were struggling or if they were playing, I could redirect them. But if you have a whole lot, if it's a couple, that's how I went. But if it's like a whole class, then yeah, I'm not sure exactly what to do for a majority class one. But that's kind of some of the things that I had to try to do with a couple of mine.
Yeah, I mean, counting it for a grade, definitely, I think that's a good idea. Do you think there's any possibility, I don't know the class, I'm just asking, that maybe the students, are they, like if they're struggling students and they might be a little, I could see that potentially being a problem, like they might be a little embarrassed at not being able to communicate and do it correctly, and so then it's easier just to act out, like I said, I don't know the class, I'm just wondering if that's could be the situation.
Yeah, in my case, like in my first block, I have also struggling students. So when they got the partner, so once I identified that student, I told him to sit beside his partner.
Right.
And they can discuss which one they're going to eliminate and what is the appropriate question they're going to ask.
Okay.
And I think that helps.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think sometimes if they're struggling, maybe as well, like the, some things some supports to put in place ahead of time, like maybe what are some, like if I wanted maybe modeling, like just on the board, drawing up, if you're doing the one with slopes of lines, drawing a one with the slope of line and say, what are some questions I could ask to determine, and modeling that for them so that then they know. So, but that kind of led us into our next couple of questions. Deborah, I know you were asking, how do you end an activity? You on this one, you really can't end it. Now you can hit the pause button and stop them. If you hit the pause button, it stops everybody.
Yeah, I saw that, but I just didn't know if there was like a way to just kick them all out, just stop it.
Other than the pause, I mean, the pause stops them right away. So, and then Kristen isn't here, but she had a question of how tightly do you keep the group in a herd? Sometimes you're able to get a better insight if you let them expand a bit. I wish she was here to explain a little bit more of what she means by that, but anybody have any thoughts on that? Maybe when she watches the video, Kristen, when you watch the video, then maybe you can email us a little more clarification on what exactly, I don't know if maybe she's meaning like, the scaffolds that you put in place, like how tightly do you do that? Maybe that's what she means, like giving them direction, like what I just said of modeling, here's a line, what are some questions could you ask, versus, just letting them go and see what they come up with. And Emily, we talked about your question there. And then some other reflections that you had. Kristen said, getting students used to talking and writing with math words. And that is the whole focus of doing this, because I think if we do something like this one time and something that makes them right, and then you never do it again, they're not going to get comfortable with it. And so that's the whole idea, is seeing if we do more things, can they begin to get more comfortable with writing about that? And then let's see, Emily, you had a question here. Let me just look real quick. For some students, they master already differentiating slopes through graph. The problems are some students are asking disgusting questions to their partners that hinders learning towards his or her partner. Deborah had this problem too. So Deborah, you want to share a little bit? Why don't you go ahead and share your screen, Deborah? And because not just for that, we're going to look at some other data and see. So Deborah's going to share her screen.
All right. Can you see it?
Yep. Can you go?
So this right here was the comment, one of the comments that one of my students made. And then this one is by the same student, and then there was another one. So I ended up writing the referral for, but I had already warned the class ahead of time about putting anything inappropriate or unrelated to the activity in their questions. And I even told mine that, you know, they're starting off with 100 because this is the first time we've ever done it. And so I told them, you know, if I go back or I review and catch where you are making inappropriate or you're throwing stuff in that has nothing to do with the activity, then I'm going to start deducting points from your grade for the day. But for this young lady, I had to end up writing a referral. And she also got sent out at the same time for a cell phone violation. So I haven't had a chance to talk to her yet and go through that whole. First, the language was inappropriate. Second, you were completely off task and not following directions. And so, you know, I was just like, you know, stunned and was like, I don't know. You know, the only thing I hate is that I couldn't catch it as it was happening because I was monitoring with other students. So there was no way I could watch it. And then what I learned today, because this happened yesterday, and when watching some of my kids today, I had another little guy he could be one that would type a comment like this. And one student was like, yo, he's asking me this question. And so I found out who he was. But see, unless they hit enter, it doesn't show up on the Desmo screen. So you start typing something inappropriate for another person to see. But unless they hit the send or the enter for it to post, it doesn't show up in the Desmo screen. So I had to kind of like, when I heard another student making comments about what somebody was writing, I had to go to that student and say, okay, that's totally inappropriate. Let's not do that. That doesn't have anything to do with the activity.
Definitely, as Deborah and I were talking, some really good opportunities for conversations about digital citizenship. But when you put something out there, and especially something that is as offensive and just vile as this is, you know, and Deborah said the girl was saying, you know, was saying how, well, I didn't mean it that way. And it's like, no, you've put it in print and it is very clear that this is like whether you meant it or not, we all know how that comes across. And so, you know, and it's out there now and it can't be taken back and it can't be taken away. So I think that's a great opportunity to have some discussions with the class as a whole about digital citizenship and then individually with the student about, you know, why you would say things like this. So anybody else? I know we just had Samantha, we're talking about when students so we're having them write. So what happens when they write offensive and inappropriate things? So anybody else have comments on that, on how you would address that?
At my previous school, we were 1-to-1, and so we were just the school was just very strict in the consequences of an automatic day of ISS for using the technology inappropriately, such as Desmos or Nearpod or anything else we were using. So.
Gotcha. So aside from the negative comments, you know, and dealing with that, because that's a different one, if you look at their other questions, what kind of conversations would you have with your students just on these other ones? Like I'm looking at the slide where it says, is the number a fraction? Does the number contain 4? Does the number contain 3? What kind of discussions would you have with them about the math practice 6 using math you know, I'm like you, Deborah, I can't recall it off the top of my head, but you know, the using precise mathematical language.
Well, one of the things I'm planning to do is because mine I see every other day. So when they come back, we're going to put these up on the board and we're going to say, you know, talk about what could you have done instead. And that instead of, you know, putting specific numbers, does it contain a 4? Because I think they were trying to let me see if I can move my little screen. Okay. So like, instead of them having to say, did it contain a 4, you know, they could have gotten to this a different way by asking, is the 4 a repeating number?
Right.
And so, you know, and then like, you know, because there was a couple of others that I had where it was a repeating number, but instead of them asking, is it a repeating number, they said, does it have the little bar over the number?
Gotcha.
So, you know, looking at, okay, this is what one person said, is there another way we could say this using math vocabulary? And this would probably be one of those things where I would probably give them, like, the next time I do it, I would probably give them a vocabulary list and say, okay, what vocabulary words do we know that you can use in, and then build that into like the whole grading of it. You know, like, you have to use so many vocabulary words correctly in order to get, you know, receive your, you know, to get to the 100 for the day.
Right. And you actually, because in this one, what kind of words would you want to see in this activity?
Right. So I will be looking for like repeating decimals, terminating, if they knew, if the, I was trying to get back to the whole group. How do I go back to overview? That's what I was trying to get to. So like, I was looking for numbers like rational number, whether it was a rational number or irrational, were they positives or negatives? If they were a fraction and mixed numbers, so they could distinguish between just mixed numbers and regular fractions. A lot of kids, I had a couple of kids that answered incorrectly because they didn't know, like the person asked them, is it a rational number? And it was the square root of 4, and they said no.
Ah, gotcha.
So then that showed me that they didn't understand that square root of 4 could be reduced to 2, which is a rational number.
Right.
So those were the kind of terms that I was looking for. And I had some that did really well with using those words. Then I had some that, you know, is it a 3 or is it even? But like here, you know, is it in this one? Is it irrational? Is it a repeating?
Oh, okay. Is it not ending? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were really good questions. But, you know, I see, like I said, I definitely see the value of doing these. Again, like I said, you can, once they get the vocabulary down, you can do these activities in 5 minutes or less. Again, you said that was yours. They went really quickly, right?
Yeah, they did.
Let's see. He's on mute. I was trying to see if he's. There
you go.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. What happened is that I think I had assumed that the computer would pair them up, and the way we did it in the first meeting.
Right.
But then when I gave them the code, they immediately got to the first exercise, and before I knew it, the first student had finished. So, and the other ones had not started. So I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
So when I came back to the computer to look, then I saw that he had done all the 8. There were only 8 problems, so he had done all of them.
I see.
Yeah, and then quickly the other ones, and you know, some of them saw that some of the parts that they were on the board, so I think they copied off what he did. Some of them copied off what he did, but then I do not know whether they copied off really, but I think they copied off, because when I look at the answers, they look similar.
Yeah.
So that tells me that I may have, I did not really know what to do in the first few minutes of the exercise. Right. Yeah.
So then it might not be the best use to have the dashboard displayed, so that they
exactly
are not copying.
Each and everyone must come up with the individual unique answers. Yeah.
So could you, for the students who they get it and they finish quickly, what is something that we could, you know, have in our pocket to do with those students when they do finish early?
So in my case, actually, what I did is I looked for another exercise and I let him do something else.
Gotcha.
I just looked for something on Desmos, and because he requested for something. So I looked through and I found one, gave him the code, and then he continued with it.
Okay. I
Yeah.
see. So that's one option.
Yeah.
Can you guys think of something that you might could do that could reinforce this activity possibly?
Mhm.
I'm just wondering if anybody has any thoughts on that.
I know from looking at some of mine, one of the things I was thinking about is as a warm up, I was thinking about posting the, like the number and the questions that were asked to see if if they could come up with a quicker way that they could have eliminated those answer choices.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Because for some of mine, they went the roundabout way of doing it instead of, the straightforward.
I've done that myself with this activity where I'm like, oh, I could have asked this question and I've eliminated so many of them. So that's one, right. And again, with having them right. I'm even thinking of things like, if you had a poster board where you said, if you finish early, go, or even not even necessarily poster board, just butcher paper, or, and the teacher white paper and that comes on the roll, and you said, okay, go make a something that we can put up that goes over all the vocabulary with this. So then they get to, that also involves like those students who are artistic, just give them, don't even tell them exactly what to do. Just like, hey, I'd love something to put up that shows and explains the important vocabulary. So that might be something as well, that just a few markers and some of that, the roll paper. And then you've got something to put up that then the next time you do the activity. But I do think, doing this, I believe this is going to reinforce like a student's understanding of these vocabulary terms so much better than me just standing up and saying, okay, here's a list of vocabulary words, actually having them do it. And like I said, I would not be at all afraid of coming back to this same activity and creating other ones for other, when we get into linear functions, when we get into, different things, creating other ones and using them multiple times. Like I said, you can do them 5 minutes at the end or beginning of class to just really hone those skills. And I think they'll just get better and better at it. So any other thoughts that anyone has on this particular activity? I'm wondering if maybe we just, there's always that fine line, but I'm wondering if the more they use it, the more we begin to expect them to actually not type like they're texting, and actually, I'm actually going to be looking and, I know we're math teachers and we don't want to grade them on, their grammar, but, I at least want the sentence capitalized, and little things like that, just to, any thoughts you guys have on that? Everybody good? Good with that? So maybe just something to think about, just little things. I know, like I said, we don't want to start grading subject verb agreement and all that, but just, does it not look like a text conversation? So I know that some of you had the chance to, oh, I'm so sorry. I just saw that link that you couldn't get the link. I'm glad that you got in, Janice. So sorry about that. I just saw your note. So some of you had the opportunity to go through the Desmos activities. So I've created 3. Samantha asked for one on inequalities.
Yes, thank you. I haven't had time to implement it yet.
Well, no, you're not going to until like after this. So and then somebody else asked for one on solving equations, and someone else asked for one on combining like terms. So, and these, I will go ahead and prepare you, like we're wanting to get to these, get students to this level where they are getting more comfortable with reading and digesting these problems and making thoughtful responses. And I know it's probably going to be a struggle initially, but I feel like if we do this and we model to them, like let them go through it and see what they do, and we model to them after it's done, okay, well, let's go back and look at what this says. I think the more we do it, the more they're going to get comfortable with that. And all of this, I really believe, is going to help them with that end of course exam, since it is so much reading and in context. So I will, so if everyone will go, let's look at the solving inequalities one. Okay, so if everyone will go to student.desmos.com, and I'm going to type it in the chat window. Okay, and then the class code is going to be 6Q4DR4. So it's there in the class code, 6Q4DR4. And so if you're on the same screen, you'll just kind of have to minimize what we're doing. Oh, there's somebody else in the background. Agina, is that your little, oh, was saying hello. Hi. It's so cute. Love everybody's kids in the background. Love it, love it. Okay, so if you will go there and log in, and so this is not a polygraph. So the polygraph is what you did last week. That's a whole different set. So this is an activity builder that I built myself for Samantha. These are really, now there's some things in here that are kind of tricky to do, but the basics of it is very easy to do. But this one's already been created for her. And so I will share my screen. So in case you haven't ever done these, then you'll see as you guys are logging in. Okay, so does everyone see that? My dashboard?
Yes.
Okay. So there are, so this is what you would see. You're looking at what the students sees when you log in. That's what your students will see. This is what you will see, what you're looking at on your screen. I'm pointing up there because it's up there on my screen. But if you look at a few things here, of course, we've got the anonymize on here. So here we have a pacing button, and that's really important, because what the pacing does is say I just want to let them see screen one and nothing else. Notice if you were on a different screen, it just jumped back. Okay, so it forces everybody to be on that one screen. And I can do it multiple screens. Like if I wanted, say, the first 3 screens, I can do that. And then they can move on the first 3 screens. The importance of that is so that if you, you want to stop the students after a certain point and have a discussion with them, then you can restrict it to that. And then when they get there, we can have those discussions. This screen here, the one that you're seeing, this shows me just at a glance where everybody is. So if I take off, for example, I'm going to stop the pacing, the anonymize, well, I jumped you all back here. But so Samantha, why don't you move forward a couple of screens on yours? And are you able to do that? Oh, she had to leave. No wonder she's not. I forget she has to leave at 4:45. Okay, Agina, you move forward. Okay, so you see how Agina moved forward, and so it moved him forward. there's not a dot there because he's not put anything in there yet. So you can look at that and just really see what's going on there. Now, if you want to actually see what they're doing, so I can come here and I can actually see. So Samantha she's already gone through the activity. So I can see what she has done there on the teacher view. The student view just shows me what that screen looks like to students. And I love this tool, the snapshot. The snapshot actually lets you take pictures. So see right here where I was with Samantha, then I could click that little camera button and notice it took a picture and it put it over here. So then I can just have one screen where we have these meaningful discussions about this one screen. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and go through. I'm going to give you, let's see, so we can stay on track to finish up at 5:15. I'm going to give you about the next 5 minutes to just quickly go through here and actually do the work. Let's see how far we can get in 5 minutes and just go through this activity. And I'm going to have the summary screen up and I can see where everyone is. On the card sort, did you guys figure out how those work? You just, if you click it, you can make it bigger. If you're having a hard time seeing it, click it and make it bigger. And then you drag it over to it, and when it turns blue, it connects. So X is greater than or equal to 2, it connects there. And then I can drag it away if I want to unconnect it.
There will be 2 cards in.
What
There
now?
will be. If I'm going to drag that, there will be 2 cards.
Yes, 2 of them will match. You'll match the graph to the card. So here we have X, like, can you see my screen now real quick?
Yes.
So I have X is greater than or equal to 2. So I'm going to find that inequality is right here. So you drag it over there, and when it turns blue, it connects them. So then here I have just X is greater than 2. So I'm going to look for this inequality, drag,
Okay, so I got it. Yeah.
and connect it.
So there will be 2 cards.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. There'll be 4 sets of 2 cards.
Yes.
I should have asked a clarifying question. So. Uh-oh. I think my answer key is wrong on this.
Why? What happened?
Because it's saying Deborah's are all wrong and hers are definitely right. Oh, I think I know what happened. I'll have to fix this because I had 2 that were X is less than 2. So I think it messed it up. So that's what happened there. I will fix this answer key. So why don't we just like after the card sort, let's just pause there real quick before we go through the rest of the activity. So if everyone will look at my screen, so my answer key that I created for this is not correct because like I've got Deborah's open here and so this one, X is greater than 2, that one's definitely correct there. This one, and Deborah, it's probably just because your screen's little and you can't see it. Now this one, she does have incorrect, but like I said, when you're looking at a little bitty screen, it's hard to see because it's less than or equal to 2, and you've got the greater than 2 connected to it. Same thing with this one. This one's the greater than. Those two are mixed up there. But if my answer key is correct, and I've got 2 of them wrong, so that's why for Samantha, that's why some of you are seeing the green means you're right, the red means you're wrong. But you're not really wrong on those red ones. My answer key's not right, so I'll fix that for you. So I'll get that fixed for you. But it's really cool how you can just real quickly glance and just see, okay, who's correct and who's incorrect. And again, those will be correct once I fix them at a glance. Okay, so the point of that screen is just to do a quick little formative assessment, because if they have trouble with this screen, then then we know we've got to go back and do some work because they don't even understand the symbols. Okay, so now if you go ahead and go on to screen 2. And so here we see, write a real world situation. Adam has more than $5. Agina, I love yours. To get rich, you must work hard for more than 5 years. The student studied more than 5 hours for their math test. So again, just getting them to write. And you see how you can see the students' work. And if you notice on that screen, we allowed them, I built the activity so that they could see each other's responses. When you take this activity and make it yours, you can take that off if you don't want them to see each other's responses. You can take that off. Okay? So screen 3, there's 2 parts to this one. So consider the inequality, name one value of X that would make it true. And so we made them also explain. So here are the responses. If you want to look at it this way, that's a different way of seeing who did what. So in this way, I see both questions together. In this way, I see what their answer was and their name there. Okay. So screen 4. Okay, so we're telling here what we did. All right. Excellent. And again, if you don't want them to see each other's work, and I don't believe you couldn't see responses on this screen, could you? No, I didn't think. So the way that when I built it, the way that I was thinking through it was like whenever it was very open-ended, like what's a real world example that this could represent, then I thought it would be good for them to see each other's responses. But when it just had one answer, like on this one, you're just subtracting 5, then I'm like, okay, they shouldn't see each other's responses. Okay, screen 5, use your own words to describe how you would find the value of X. Okay, so I'll let you guys move on. Well, I'll tell you what, since we're kind of running short on time, let's just go ahead and go through the rest of it. So here they're looking at the inequalities, they're describing it. Okay, so here, and let me do the student view so you'll see the student view. So this is building up the idea of why we flip the sign instead of just telling them. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, flip the sign. We're trying to get them to visually see why that happens. So somebody give me a number less than 8 and greater than negative 15.
7.
7. Less than 8, so we're going to go with 7. And again, we ask them to make sure you pick one that nobody else picks in your group. Okay. Now notice this screen is built to pull that number. You entered x equals 7. Now substitute that into the following inequality. 2 times x equals 2 times 8. Show your work in the box below. Now we're giving them an example here of what we want them to put in the box. So then it asks them to explain their thinking and to tell whether it's true or false. So I'm going to put 2 times 7 is less than 2 times 8. Now this might be something that you need to model for the students. So just as you go through the activity, so share with the class. 14 is less than 16, so we'll say true. 14 is less than 16.
16.
Okay. So share with class. Okay, so screen 8. So now this is pretty cool. We built it where it would actually pull the number. I have to give my colleague, Shauna, credit for doing this screen for me, but she built it so it pulled their number so they can actually see it on a number line. And the graph proves that 14 is to the left of 16, so it is less than 16. That's the idea that we're wanting them to see. Okay, so remember you entered x equals 7. Now look what they're going to substitute it into. So they're going to do the same thing. -2 times 7 is less than -2 times 8. Okay, now, okay, we hope that they'll see that this is false. You know, false because -14 is greater than -16. So what could you do to the inequality to make it true? You could reverse the sign to -14 is greater than -16. However, when Shauna was helping me build this, there's going to be some students that aren't going to catch, right, that -14 is less than, they're going to think 14 is less than 16, right? So again, that's why she did the next box. So again, it pulls and we see, oh, -14 is to the right of the 2 times 8. And so, you know, here that -14 is greater than -16. And so here we want them to summarize what happens when you multiply both sides of an inequality by a positive number, by a negative number. And now these last few, we're just actually taking them through solving and making them explain their steps. Here they're solving this one, what they would do first. You know, some people would subtract 5, most people are going to subtract 5, right? But it's okay if they want to divide by 2, as long as they divide everything by 2. So we could say subtract 5, submit to teacher, explain your thinking. And so, you know, we would say, you know, that would leave me 2x on one side, whatever they, I did that wrong. See, we're going to have to model this for them. Think about what you could do first to solve this inequality. Perform that operation and write the resulting inequality in the box below. So the resulting inequality would be 2x is less than 5. You're probably going to need to model that with the students. And so I subtracted, and here's where they would write, subtracted 5 from
On both sides.
both sides. Do you think it would be helpful for me to add in some instructions here, a sample like I did on the inequality? Like, for example, if you had x plus 3 is less than 2 and you subtracted 3, you would enter x is less than -1 into the box. Do you think that would be helpful, or do you think it'd just be best for you guys just to model it?
For my case, I would think that it's better you put in the instructions because
Okay.
some students do not get that.
Okay, I will, I'll add that into the instructions before I send you guys the final copy. So see, then it, okay, so when you submit to teacher and you go to the next screen, then it's built in to pull whatever equation they put on the previous screen. That was your resulting inequality. And so then we're having them do the same thing. So x is less than 5/2 will be their answer, divided both sides by 2. And then here we give them an error analysis where, well, no, this one is correct. We're just telling them, describe the process that they used. So they subtracted 5 and then multiplied, you know, so we're wanting them to explain, like, here's one worked for you. Now explain the steps. And so that's there. Here is an error analysis. You know, she did not reverse the inequality. Now this one is just like the one we just went through, except now we give them one with a negative. Same thing. Oh, it makes them, if they don't enter 1, it makes them enter it there. And then an error analysis here where they also didn't flip the sign. And then that is the end of the activity. Now, this may be too much to do in one day. So you may want to do it over 2 days. Any thoughts on that you guys have?
Well, for my class, for my honors class, this they may do in 1 day.
Okay.
Yeah, although the other classes, this might take them a while because of the reversing the sign and all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they, you know how when they go to sign in and it says sign in using your Google, do you guys have, Deborah, I know y'all don't do Google sign, y'all aren't a Google district, are you? What about the rest of you? Are you a Google district or no?
Yeah, we are.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
And Janice, you are? Okay.
District, yeah, district.
Because if they sign in using their Google sign in, then it saves their place. So they can leave it and then they can come back into it and it puts them right back where they were. If they don't sign in using their Google, then they leave it, and when they come back, it just starts them over. So Deborah, you know, I mean, the students can get a Gmail account.
Right. I was told that all the English 1 students were given Gmail accounts, but some of mine act like they've never seen it before. So I told them to create one. That was before. So I would definitely, if I'm going to be doing a lot of these, I would definitely make them, even if they don't have one or can't remember it, make them sign up for one.
Right. Right. Because that's the beauty, because you can see how, like, you just can't predict. You may get into these. You may think I can cover this in a day, and then all of a sudden it's taking you 3 days to get through it, and you want them to come back in where they were instead of starting over again.
For example,
I'm sorry.
example, I want to limit only. So, for example, these 19 slides, I want to limit my students to answer only 8 for a day. Can I do that? Say,
Yes. Oh, shoot. I just got off of it. Okay, so there's
so limited only to 80 slides for example, for today, they need only to answer 80 slides. Can I do it?
yes,
Okay.
you can do this pacing here, and then you can pace it like this, restrict it to screens 1 through 8,
Okay.
then
That's
that it
the one.
will not let them go past 8. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you
Okay.
decide you want to do it over 2 days, just have them sign in with their Google so that it saves their data. And then, and you know, Deborah, if by some chance a student doesn't sign in with their Google, it will still save their data, but it will just, like, if I don't sign in with my Google, it's going to say Amy Adams. And then I come back tomorrow and I don't sign in with my Google, it's still got the Amy Adams and the 8 screens that I did, but it'll just have another Amy Adams. And so you could, it's still doable. It just means that you would have to piece 2 of them together, and you'd really rather see it all in one. Yeah. So, so let me show you once when I send you this activity, you, when you click on it, because you just went through it as the student, putting in the student. But when you get this activity, you click on it and it's going to open up here. And it'll open up to look like this. And then you will come right here on those 3 dots and you'll click copy and edit. And then that lets it be yours. And if you want to change, you know, if you say, no, I want to change, you know, where they can't see each other's responses. So I'm editing my activity now. You won't even have the option of editing until you hit copy and edit. So let's say that, so this is my version of building it. So let's say that you don't want them to see each other's responses. You just take that button off and then you put it back on. I need to fix the answer key here that was wrong. Here's how you create the answer key with this right here. And this one was the one that was wrong. That's definitely X is less than 2, and I've got X is greater than 2. So now when I fix this and I go back and look at your answers, they should be correct. So I fixed that real quick. So that'll be fixed for you. But you can go through here, and if there's anything that, like I said, if you want them to take off showing responses, you can do that. And then you just click next. And I click publish so that you guys will have access to it.
So Amy, on the screen where it said duplicate, can you duplicate a screen and then move that slide to a different position?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you wanted to have it twice for some reason, yeah. Or then you could do that. This is really neat. If you see this, the teacher guide, I love this. I would definitely print this out. It goes through an activity checklist of things to think about. You know, what are my learning targets? And then it gives you things to really think about, like which screen should everyone work on at the same time? Which screens do you want to keep students from seeing? Are there any points in the lesson that you want to make sure students aren't playing with the screen while you discuss something in class? If that's the case, you hit the pause button and you stop them. And then it actually has every single screen here where you can go through and take notes on it. What I would love for you guys to do, and you know, listen, I know this isn't feasible for every day of your class. I'm definitely not saying, but for the purposes of what we're doing, I'd love if you printed this out, and as you're going through the activity, you know, just quickly journaling some things of like, okay, this screen. And I know that's hard when you're, like Deborah said, I'm like, I got my eyes on this student over here that I know is like, but if you could, or even if you didn't do it during the class, if you did it afterwards, just sit down really quick and anything that comes to your mind, just reflecting it, okay, that wasn't good, because then what I can do then is go back and edit the activity, because this activity is actually going to be put on the Algebra Nation website. And if you look at the Algebra Nation video that goes along with this, it approaches it very much from the same method with the whole flipping the sign and showing them why. And so to me, the beauty is you would use this activity in class, and if there's some students who are still kind of struggling with it, then they can watch the video to help tie it all together. So I have that one. I have one that's on solving equations that's very, very similar. And then I have one on combining that I created on combining like terms. And so I will send you all three of them, and then you guys can look through them and see which one you'd like to use. Last thing that I wanted to ask you guys really quick, I wonder if it would be better to space us out 2 weeks. It seemed like it came really quickly, would that be helpful?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'll email and let everybody know we won't meet next Tuesday. We'll give 2 full weeks for you to determine when, because 5 days goes before we know it. And really, you don't really want to be doing it the day we meet. So then that only leaves you 4 days. So I thought it would be better to do it every 2 weeks. Okay. Well, I will email you guys. I will give you the all of these in your email, and I'll let everybody know we're going to go 2 weeks out. Really, really quick before we go, does anybody have any thoughts on just anything that jumps out to you about any problems that you anticipate with the activities or any adaptations that you're going to make to it? I know we've already mentioned restricting the screens.
Well, the reason I asked about the duplicating button is I was thinking about if you put one where you walk them through the example show them how to type it in, and then you duplicate it and give them a totally different problem that they have to do themselves as part of the whole modeling thing.
Okay.
So that was one of the things I was thinking about.
These have some of those screens have the special coding in the background to make them full. But what I can do, if you think that would be helpful, if everybody agrees that would be helpful, I can do, before I send it to you guys, I can put in another screen that walks them through that process, especially on the solving equations, because I think that's where it really.
Yeah, that's the ones I was looking at. So yeah, I think it would benefit mine if there was one that was like my guided, where we do it together, and then afterwards they have their own that they have to follow through the process.
Okay. I wonder if maybe it might be helpful if I just made just a whole little mini activity that has those 3 or 4 screens that you just use so that you don't have to break the activity.
Right.
Would that be helpful if I just did you okay, here's a little mini one that's got 4 or 5 screens that can just show them that you can walk through with them?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do that for you then. So I'll do that and get that for you.
Thank you.
You can use that for guiding. Yeah, and then when you start the activity, we should be good to go. So, okay, cool. Well, I will definitely do that. What I probably won't put, I'll even do it with the one where they do the inequality, but I won't put that 3rd screen with the graph, because that's what we want them just to see. And in that one, they're just looking at it anyway. They're not having to enter anything. But I will put one where it models the multiplying both sides by a positive number, and at least that shows them how to set it up. And then it'll leave the rest of it. Awesome. I'll do that. If you have any questions about it, please don't hesitate. You can email me. You got my number. You can text if texting's easier, if you want to call. just let me know if you're anything as you start getting into it, because I know it can be a little overwhelming till you get comfortable with it. And please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, in 2 weeks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.